This program is made possible by the friends and partners of Curator Ministries.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining me again today. I hope this week's been going well for you. It's fall here in West Virginia, so all the leaves are changing, and it's been really just an exciting season with all the upcoming holidays. I've had a series of meetings this week with people, just with holidays kind of coming up, just kind of can manifest some struggles for people, right? And one sweet lady that I met with was a member of the congregation at our church, and she had a question that kind of stumped me, and I just kind of had to sit in for a while, and that really became the muse for my study and my time with God over the last probably 4 to 5 weeks. But this sweet lady is a young mother, has children and married, and has found herself in a position where her husband has just really violated her trust. And she said that she's really struggling with, she fully understands the concept of forgiveness. She understands the importance of her husband to ask for forgiveness both from her and from God and to receive it. And she understands that, she has to, the importance of her forgiving him, that forgiveness is really for yourself, to heal and to be able to move forward. She understands all of that, and she has been diving in the Word and listening to the Word, and really feels like we heavily concentrate on teaching about forgiveness. But she says, what is there for me when, though I have forgiven him, and though God has forgiven him, I'm still carrying the weight of the hurt? How do I survive the trauma? And that was an excellent question that kind of took me back a little bit. And I had to tell her, honestly, let me study about that. I'm going to get back to you on that, because I don't want to give a little quip answer. That's a layered question. Because what she finds herself in a position is that she feels like, because in her specific situation, this has been a multiple offense. It's happened more than once. And so she kind of feels like he's gotten in this pattern of, he comes to church, he listens to the Word, he gets set free, he has, counsel with the pastors, and he's good. He hits reset and moves on with life. And she's like, but I'm still holding the weight of this. And she feels like, where is the justice for me? And so we start talking about, okay, well, what got you here? What gets him to the place where this is a repeat offense? Because let's be honest, all of us can be stuck on a reel from time to time with our behavior, right? May not be as egregious as what his has been, but all of us can find a place in our life where we kept making the same mistakes over and over and over, even though we knew that it was wrong and we knew that it was causing hurt. You just get caught in a rut sometimes, right? And so what we discovered was that their situation didn't go from zero to destruction overnight. It was a series of decisions and compromises that layered themselves all throughout the course of several years, that got them to the place where they were considering divorce. And it reminded me of this book report that my son had to do. It was an oral presentation on the Galapagos penguin. And I remember my son come home and he was just really put out that he'd gotten the Galapagos, because the Galapagos is not a majestic beast. You can probably guess that by its name. It is the smallest of all the penguins, not a real bright penguin. He was really put out by the fact that all the other penguins had really cool predators, like the shark. He's like, not the Galapagos. The Galapagos' biggest predator is the crab. And he was like, can you say embarrassing? I was like, well, how in the world is a crab a predator? You don't think of a crab as being a predator, like these little ninja crabs out there. Like, how is a crab a predator to anything? And he explained to me in his research what he found was the Galapagos assumed that the sharks were its predator, right? Because they're the big things that look scary overhead, right? So what it would do is it would go into shallower water closer to the earth, and it was the crabs that every time they would come by would raise their fin up and would slice them over and over and over again. And because the cuts weren't real deep, they seemed superficial. The Galapagos, because it was avoiding the big thing it thought was a predator, the concentration was here, just kept swimming with the crustaceans. And it would die a slow death. It was literally a death by 1,000 lacerations. And isn't that how we get in some of our biggest pickles? Right? Our concentrations on the big outliers we think are the biggest threats or the biggest things in our life. And we ignore the minute details of things. And those are the things that kill us. It's the constantly seeking to build an empire for ourselves, or a reputation for ourselves, or, wealth, or whatever it may be, for a legacy for our children. And it's right. It's not wrong. But we neglect our health, and we die before our time from a heart attack. Or it's the, working out in the gym because you want to stay healthy, and you mismanage your time of them. Before you know it, I'm doing something that's good for myself, but I've not spent any time with my family this week. I've not spent any time in the Word this week. And it's the crustacean. It's the crustaceans that kill us. And we talked about that, and we talked about how you have to identify what those small things are that create those lacerations and those slow bleeds, because when we make choices, every choice that we make has teeth, good and bad. You will have a consequence for every decision that you make. And they may be a consequence that you don't see for years. It may be a consequence that you never see, that your children will have to walk out because you did. Maybe it was poor financial decisions. Well, this Christmas, I really want to bless these people, and maybe I'm going to spend more than I need to. Crustacean. Right? So how do we keep ourselves from getting in these places and these spirals and these ruts? And that's what I was trying to walk out with this woman, because the choices that we make can have collateral damage, because they affect more than us. They affect other people. And in the course of my study, trying to really peel this back for her, because she's right. I think sometimes we don't really think about the victims in the story. We don't really want to, right? I mean, we think about how, the good guy wins in the end, and we received our forgiveness, and, but, we are fallible men, but because we're fallible men, God still loves us, and He still blesses us, and all that's true, but we still hurt people. And what do we do with that? And so he brought me to David, and I studied a lot about King David. And in my study, I looked at, starting from the beginning of his reign to his deathbed, how a series of the same mistake that he made over and over and over again led him to the death of 3 children, 2 physically and 1 spiritually. It left him with his reputation questioned. It left him with a wedge between him and God. And in the end, it cost him almost his legacy, because he never had the courage to make the changes in his life that he needed to. And so we started walking that out together, she and I, as she's trying to have the courage to make the changes that she needs to, right, to see the change that she wants in her life. And we started with Bathsheba. And God showed me both Bathsheba and both Tamar. And we're going to talk both about those ladies because both of those ladies really fell prey and victim to some of David's bad choices and bad decisions, right? So Bathsheba, if you can remember, was the lady taking the bath. And David walks out on the roof and sees her. And what's interesting is that I had been taught, and it makes a wonderful cinematic movie, and I get it, right? So you kind of get this impression and kind of have been taught that it was almost a seductive moment, right? Like it was a calculated move on her act that, she, timed it just perfectly where David would be, seeing her from this rooftop and seduced him, and he was just overcome with this, and this led into this murderous, adultery affair. But that's actually, when you read the story, not exactly what happened. So what Bathsheba was doing was she was taking a bath. And it wasn't a Sunday leisurely bubble bath, right? This was a ceremonial act under Mosaic law. So that tells me she was a godly woman. So she was cleansing herself in this moment as a time of preparation, a spiritual preparation, so that she was in a position to give life with her husband. So she's in this moment where she's having this cleansing moment where it's an act of worship for her. And David wakes up from a nap, can't sleep, and takes a stroll on a roof. Now, it wasn't lost on me that David was somewhere he wasn't supposed to be. So David, it was springtime, and springtime was the time when kings go to battle. This was a time when vision should have been occurring, and this was a time where he should have been supporting and defending the people of his kingdom, but instead he chose to stay in Jerusalem. And I know this is a big deal because this is how David acquired his kingdom, and this is how he acquired all of Israel from the jump. Because when David was first anointed king and when Saul passed away, there was a revolutionary war. Half of the kingdom did not acknowledge him as king because they felt, no, the succession is the king's son, and you're not the king's son. And you had this section over here and said, he's the anointed one. He is the one. And so there were divisive lines and a revolutionary war, and a lot of people died. And there came a time when the kingdom that Saul had left behind, who at this point was being ran by his son, said, you know what, enough's enough. He is the anointed. We need to find a way to bridge this gap and live in peace. Enough people have died. We need to submit to God's will. And they go to David and they draft a peace treaty. And in the end, there was a man in Saul's council that would not honor that because he was so angry that the man sent for the peace treaty during one of these battles had killed his brother. And though David said, listen, I am, sending this person, I'm sending you back in peace, which means you're protected. I see the bigger picture here. I'm going to push past my feelings towards you, my anger towards you, because I'm looking at the kingdom and everyone who resides in it. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to pardon you. I'm going to forgive you. The other man couldn't, and he murdered him. And it squashed this peace deal. Can we do that? Can we get to a place where we say, not thy will, Father, but my will be done? I know, Father, I'm supposed to forgive that person. I know that I'm supposed to let it go, but I'm so angry at what it cost me. Can we be so angry, so hurt, so betrayed that we cannot push past and look at the bigger picture? Can we be so angry with our spouse for that same betrayal that we just spew anger towards them and we don't think about the household of kids that are listening, that are being raised up in that? Can we get so caught up in, yes, I know that your will is for me to forgive that person, God, but I just can't. Don't you remember what he did to me? Don't you remember what she did to me? That we spew this venom towards people, and our kids are watching and they have no other frame of reference. And before you know it, you're going to blink and your daughter's going to be married. And you're going to hear her say those same things to her husband. And you're going to have an innocent man paying a price for an offense he never committed. And that's what this looked like here. This man couldn't look at the bigger picture. He couldn't obey the king's will. And he said, nope, I know that your will is for me to forgive him, but my will be done today.
We hope that you are enjoying today's program. We are so thankful for this opportunity to take the gospel into all the world. The only way we can continue to reach the world is through partnering with people like you. So today, if you would like to partner monthly or even a one-time gift, please make checks payable to Curator Ministries and send to the address below. If you would like prayer or more information, please call 304-638-6411. We hope and pray that your life is completely changed and that you see the goodness of God that is curated in your life.
Your home is your kingdom. Can we get to a place where we rule, my will, not thy will be done? That's why it's important for kings to be in battle. What is your battle? What are you battling right now? Are you fighting the right fight? Is your vision right? That was what was important for David to be with his men, guiding them. So David, why are you in Jerusalem at the time that kings go to battle? What are you avoiding in your battle? The things that you may look at and be like, I don't have time for that, or I don't have the energy for that, or I don't have the patience for that. And you've placed yourself somewhere that you should have never been. And it was a compromise. It was a crustacean that you don't even see yet. And that's where David is. He's walking on a roof when he should be on the front line leading these men. And he cast his eyes on this woman, and it wasn't the first glance that got him, it was the second. It's not when you see a handsome man or a beautiful woman that gets you in trouble. It's the second glance that leads to the inquisition. Hey, who is that? Oh, that's Bathsheba. And the inquisition that leads to the acquisition. Go get her. And they go get her and they bring him to her. And what's interesting about the story that I want to give honor to Bathsheba for is that you get the impression that this was something that she wanted, but she was brought to someone who had power and authority over her. It was her king. She was powerless against him. It was someone set into a place that was supposed to protect her, and he violated her. And you can't call it rape because she was a married woman. But someone in a place of authority who was supposed to help her and protect her now hurts her. He betrays her. And he steals a part of her that day. What do you do with that? What do you do with that when there's someone in a place of authority that hurts you, betrays you? What do you do with that feeling of betrayal? And so he sends her away. And she realizes in some due time that she's pregnant. She sends a message back, I'm with child. And so he has an oh crap moment. Let's be honest. I've got this lady pregnant. It's not a good look. I can't let my kid be raised by another man. I know how I'll do it. Instead of seeking God and saying, you know what, I messed up, God. Give me guidance. I'm going to fix this myself. I'm gonna cover. I can figure. I can make this go away. I can save my reputation. Do we do that? When we mess up, do we try to sweep it under the rug and hide it and deal with it internally, or do we just go before God? I messed up. God. Give me direction. I know you want to bless me. I know you. I know that you love me. I know that you reside in me. Give me direction, God. And so he sweeps it under the rug, and what he does in that is he kills her husband. And I know that she loves her husband because the Bible says she mourns him. You don't mourn people that you don't love. And then he goes back, he gets her, and he marries her. How would that feel? The person has violated you, now murders your husband, and you have to marry him. Think about the strength that this woman had to have to get up every day and not be a basket case. Think about that. And she gives birth to this child that she had probably dreamed of and planned her whole life with her husband, but she gives birth to this child from a man who violated her and is now trying to cover up his reputation for her. And because of the choice that David made, God curses this child and it dies. So another innocent life is lost because of David's choices. And so now you have this woman who her husband's dead, her child is dead, and she's married to her offender. I can't think of any other woman that wouldn't be in a fetal position on the floor, but not Bathsheba. Bathsheba had an inner strength that I can't even identify with, because he continues to sleep with her because she has Solomon. Right? And I know that she has an inner strength about her and that she didn't find herself in a fetal position, because the Bible says later on that when it was time at the end of David's life, and it was time to pick a successor, she went to him and she contended for her son Solomon. So she had an inner strength, she had a power, and she had a voice with the king. That's not a weak woman. Now fast forward, because of this betrayal with Tamar, there was a two-edged sword on the curse that God put on David. One, this baby was going to die, but the second one, there's going to be destruction in your home. And remember when I said earlier that his choices cost him 3 children, 2 spiritually, or 2 physically and 1 spiritually? There was Tamar, and Tamar was his daughter. And Tamar finds herself in a position where she is, her brother has become infatuated with her. Her half-brother has become infatuated with her, and he fully believes that he loves her. And he is pining away, and he consults with, or he tells, one of his closest confidants his feelings. And his closest confidant was like, hey, I got an idea. Pretend you're sick and tell her to come to you. Careful who you confide with. The people close to you that have a seat at your table and give you counsel, make sure they're for you and not against you. Make sure they give you good, godly counsel. So he does. And she comes because my brother's sick and he wants me to care for him. I can only eat if my sister comes and feeds me. And so any good sister, any good woman would go and tend to someone that she thinks that she can help. And that's what Tamar's doing. And so she goes there, and immediately he goes in to try to have a physical encounter with her. And she's, are you crazy? No. And she's pleading with him. Stop. And he forces himself on her. The Bible says that he overpowered her. He was bigger than her. He pushed past her pleads. He would not listen to reason, and he raped his sister. And when he was finished, the Bible said he hated her as much as he once loved her. Isn't that funny? That when we can offend people or hurt people, how quickly our feelings can change to make ourselves feel better. He hated her as much as he loved her. And so she's standing there, and I want you to envision this. This was this girl that was there to help her brother. She's been physically violated. He's not only stripped her of her virginity, he has stripped her from her dignity. He has stripped her from her place in society because she's a soiled woman now. What am I going to do with this? And then he tells her, get out. And she's shocked. What? Get out. And he tells the guards to bolt the door behind her. And she starts begging him, pleading with him, don't do this. What you are about to do is worse than what you've already done. What? Worse than you've already done? What could possibly be worse than the physical attack that you just endured? And what she is saying is the rejection that you're about to give me. I cannot handle that. That is, I can survive a rape. I can survive that. I can survive an adulterous affair. I can survive that. I can survive chapter 11, I can survive that. I can't survive this betrayal. I cannot survive rejection. And what's interesting is when we look at Tamar, we look at the rape, we look at the adulterous affair, and we think that's the shark. But that wasn't what killed him. It was the crustacean that got him. We have to learn to compartmentalize our feelings appropriately. That was the difference between Tamar and Bathsheba. That inner strength I talked about. Because when Tamar leaves this room, her brother, after this act, her other brother looks at her and said, I know what just happened to you. Don't say anything. It's your brother. Don't say anything. And don't take this to heart. Don't take this to heart. He didn't call me a bad name. He raped me. How do you not take that? How do you not take that to heart? But what he's saying is this. Protect what you let into your heart. If you've been a victim of something vile, or you've just been betrayed, know that you have power, an inner power. They may have power over you. There may be a circumstance you are powerless against the circumstance, but there's an inner power in you that can only be given. That was the difference between Bathsheba and Tamar, because the Bible said she lived destitute the rest of her life, a dead place. She was dead inside the rest of her life because she didn't understand. He couldn't take my identity away in that room through that rejection that had to be given. Bathsheba got that. You can't take who I am away because you forced me into this situation. That's given. You can't steal something. You can't steal my trust. You can't steal my innocence. That's given. So my prayer is a twofold prayer. For people who find themselves as a repeat offender, know that every choice that you have teeth. And it can go lateral. Have the courage to make the right choices and the right changes in your life for peace. And for all those who have found themselves on the victim end of that, know that you have power in this situation. Activate it. Don't become a David. Don't let the choice of letting that seed in you of anger and hostility and resentment root in you where it starts to come out of you. And before you know it, now you've gone lateral. And now you have collateral damage to your family, to your generations. Right? You have the ability to make the right choices and to make the right changes in your life. You have that power to take the reins and take your power back. Thank you guys so for joining me today. I'll see you next time.